चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट पास हो गए, सर्टिफिकेट वापस ले लेंगे, बोलो. It's very simple. I have done it for 4 airlines. I basically got a payout from them and I got a free ticket. How you think it happened? I will give you the scenario. We are coming to fraud risk assessment. Tension mat lo. We will finish the material. You check in. You go to check-in counter, you check in, no? You give them the ticket, your passport, sab vagara, sab check in. You buy 2 identical bags. Exactly the same color, same size. In one bag, you put newspaper. In another bag, you put your belongings. The newspaper bag, you check in. The other bag, you hand carry. Or you can check in both. You check in both, and then the bag will go, no, in the, kya bolte ho, conveyor, whatever. Belt pe jayega, then you will nicely go on the aeroplane, and then chai pani nashta karenge, khayenge, baad mein niche aayenge. So when you come out, you must survey the airport first, before you go and do this. Look at where all the CCTV cameras are. And then you put your back against the CCTV camera. And all of them got baggage tag, no? You rip the baggage tag off, you put it in your pocket. And then there are 2 bags, no? One has got newspaper and one has got your clothes. You take your clothes back, you go, and then you tell them that you are missing a bag. Simple. You go and put a baggage, kya bolte? Lost baggage claim, lost baggage, what? And then they investigate, they will tell that we will put you on global tracking. They will try to find your bag, but they will never find your bag. How to find your bag? There is no tag only. And then you go, after 2 weeks later, they will pay you a check of few $1,000. हो गई आपकी holiday free. सर, मैं एक बात नहीं कर रहा हूँ सर. You must take the airline जिसके पास पैसा हो है. ऐसे के सिंगापुर एयरलाइंस, एमिरेट्स एयरलाइंस, कटारी एयरलाइंस. हाँ, सही बात है. अगर आप PIA लेंगे तो नहीं मिलेगा सर. कंफर्म. नो डिसरिस्पेक्ट सर. आई एम जस्ट seriously. Okay, now you're smiling. I feel good. I have done it for 4 airlines, and I got a payout of $10,000 US, just to prove that I could beat the system. You need to know which airport has got what camera where. Then you strategically place yourself. And then if I'm wearing all black, how are they going to find me? I did it in China airport, Thailand airport, Malaysia airport, Singapore airport. So it's possible. Okay? It's an example of how you think like a crook. मगर मैडम ऐसा मत करना. आप लोग CA हो, आपके पास बहुत integrity है. I am 6:30 fellow. Okay, so now we come, that's why I say it's a balancing act. So, we will talk about now, you understand the basis, everything already, the ground rules. We go in fraud risk assessment. Fraud risk assessment is basically talking about fraud. And before even you can talk about, your organization must believe fraud is a risk. If your organization doesn't even believe fraud is a risk, then what is there to talk about? All are working in companies, right? Except for, if you're working for professional firms like KPMG, we will not talk about them because we have many people from KPMG, yeah? And I have very good friends in KPMG as well, so they have their very good policies and everything. But those who are working in commercial, how many of you are working in commercial, outside professional services? Excellent. In your own companies, do you have a fraud policy? Do you believe fraud is a risk in your company? You believe fraud is a risk in your company, and yet you don't have a fraud policy. Do your people talk about fraud? एग्जैक्टली सर, आपने क्या सिक्सर मारा वसीम अकरम की तरह, ऐसा मत करने का, एक मिल गया है दूसरा नहीं मिलने वाला है, सब लोग को एक ही मिलता है. So if you believe fraud is a risk and your management believes fraud is a risk, then why isn't there a fraud policy? And then if you have got internal auditors, how many of you are internal auditors here? Any? Are my best friends? हाथ ऊंचे करो यार, मेरे भाई बंदी हो internal auditors. Who is a CIA from here? My best friend, certified internal auditor. I'm an internal auditor, but I'm not certified. I am from experienced internal auditor. So, internal auditor, their role is organization and look at what? Are they supposed to go and find fraud? No, but they must make sure there are enough controls to prevent, detect fraud. Yet, the internal auditor is not given the training about fraud. Then how are you going to find the fraud? And the internal auditor has to think like, look, the internal auditor not clean shirt. And in every company, I can bet my bottom dollar, which is the department has got most fraud. No, we don't talk about government. Government sensitive, sir. मेरे को वापस जाने का है आप. ऐसा मत करो. The last time when I came here, I got stranded at the airport for 2 hours. No, because he kept insisting I'm from India, and I kept I'm from Singapore. Pakka. And then he says there is another story of that. Never mind. So where were we? I forgot. Which department? Don't talk about government. Procurement. Procurement is the department that can guarantee you money back guarantee. There will be fraud everywhere. It never be procurement is clean. And in terms of industry, the industry that has got the most fraud, which one? Construction industry, my construction man, God alone knows only. They are experts. So procurement department is the department where you will find a lot of fraud. Right? In Asia, in the US is different. It's on the financial reporting, because their salaries are to the bottom line. In Asia is different. In Asia it's more bribery, corruption, my favorite topic. Right? So you got to understand. Internal auditor's role is very different. A lot of times people blame the internal auditors. But what can the internal auditor do if he is not even given the training? That's one. And how many internal auditors here will speak up against their bosses? कोई भी है इस कमरे में? एक ही है सर. Congratulations. आपके में बहुत पैसा है या आपको जीने का मतलब नहीं है या क्या कुछ प्रॉब्लम है? नहीं. Very high integrity. Only one person in this room, so many charges, that he will speak up against his boss. So if the internal auditor found something, what they going to do? Report it. किसको report करेंगे? If the bosses simple. Malaysia, you don't lose your job. Anybody of you been to Malaysia? Malaysia, you know where it is, right? Petronas Twin Towers. In Malaysia, if you report the fraud, you will end up with the drum, cement. They will put you inside the aeroplane. That's a joke. Okay, never mind. That's a bad joke. I'll come back to that. The point I'm trying to make here is that don't blame the internal auditors because that is not their role. The role to prevent and detect fraud is everybody's responsibility in the organization. And if you just said to me that fraud is a risk in your company, then you must have a fraud policy, you must have a whistleblower policy. If you don't even have these two, then what are you talking about? Then don't waste time to come here and listen to a seminar on fraud risk assessment. It's wasting time. You better drink some tea somewhere. That you have basics first, right? So we are clear? So here we are talking about two cases here of Titanic and Marilyn, however you pronounce Marilyn, is the bank. Titanic has got nothing to do with fraud, but it's a very good story about risk assessment. Risk assessment is different from fraud risk assessment. So the reason why I wanted to share the Titanic with you is, how many of you have seen the movie Titanic? I never let you go, you never let me go, then we let everybody go. Kya story thi yaar. So in Titanic, it's a classic case assessment, right? Where did they identify the risk? No. Did they act upon it? Yes, they did, but they acted in the way that they acted. The number of lifeboats, the number of passengers. And was Titanic compliant with the maritime laws at that point in time? Anybody want to make a guess? Absolutely 100% yes, they were compliant with every maritime regulation at that point in time in 19 whatever, they complied. The bare minimum, and that's what all companies today are doing also. They comply with the bare minimum. पागल ने बोला है ज़्यादा comply करने के लिए. You tell me to do something, I just do the minimum lah. What's your problem? It's simple. That's the example of Titanic. The bank example that went bust, right? Merrill Lynch. There, the culture was totally different. When they talk about fraud risk assessment, they basically is a cowboy type, everything that they can do to make money. Because to them, money is the most important thing, not any other thing. Okay, they also assess the risk. But instead of reducing the risk, transferring the risk, accepting the risk, avoiding the risk, what did they do? They just pass the risk on to everybody else. Right? And that's why you had the whole subprime mortgage crisis and everything, right? Because they created products out of nothing. If you read through the subprime, they basically sold nonsense and they made a product out of it. Right? So someone thought of it, right? In fraud risk assessment, you got to think like a crook. Someone thought of it, hey, I can package him together, make it into a product, and then go and sell it to him. Happily. And then everything fell apart, right? So that's what happened in these two. So we will move on. So what I want to talk to you now is managing fraud risk. Okay, it's a step methodology. So it's very simple. It's not rocket science. The first step is evaluate the organization's fraud risk factors, identifying the potential schemes and scenarios, and the likelihood and impact. You have to take each process within your company and ask yourself, what possible fraud can happen? You got to very white hair like me, or you get no hair. You got no hair. That what scenario can happen? What fraud can the person do? So if you take procurement, you need to look at what is the likelihood, what is the impact going to be, right? If the likelihood is going to be very remote, but the impact, better do something about it. Correct? Can I understand or you lost? Very good. Don't be lost. Right? If the impact is, if you want to take an example that has got nothing to do with fraud but risk assessment, you look at Malaysian Airlines. You know Malaysian Airlines? 2 planes, right? When we feel sorry, you take the first example. Sorry, not the first, the second one that got blown off the sky in Russia. You mean nobody knew that there is a surface-to-bunk missile that can go above 35,000 feet? You mean nobody knew that who had this technology? You mean nobody knew that that is a war-torn zone? You mean nobody knew? Or everybody knew? Everybody knew. Yeah, so the thing is, you know what you know, you don't know what you don't know. You know what you know, you don't know what you don't know. What lies between what you know and don't know will kill you. Correct? What you know, you know. What you don't know, you don't know. Between the two will wipe you out. And in Malaysian Airlines case, that's exactly what happened, right? The entire board knew what was happening. The Civil Aviation Authority of the world, right? The CA, whatever you call them. Yeah, thank you. They also gave an advisory saying that fly that path, right? Above certain level, 35,000 or whatever they call it, right?